Welcome to CBR TV. I'm Jonah Weiland in the Tiki Room at New York Comic Con, and this is my very first interview. And sort of tradition now.
What?
It's with
I'm the
Robert
first?
Kirkman. You are the first.
Oh.
So if this one sucks, which
Yeah, I
usually
gotta wait
the
for you
first
to
one
warm
kinda
up.
does.
This is terrible.
Well, and like, all the equipment's not even ready to
Oh,
go
are
really
these
yet.
on?
The
Is
set's
this
barely
working?
done. You want to come back later? You don't have any time.
I dressed up for this?
Yeah,
good,
nice
man.
shirt. Is this a new
good.
shirt? It looks
No,
lovely.
no, I actually own like 7 of these shirts. Some people make fun of me. They're like, didn't you wear that yesterday? I'm like, well, you know, it was in the rotation.
Who was the
different
famous?
one.
Was it Einstein? Who was the famous scientist who always wore the same thing?
It was
Someone.
Einstein and Ernest P. Worrell.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go. So
But,
you're in great company.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Robert, okay, when you came out to the boat, we talked a lot about The Walking Dead, and we talked a little bit about about Outcast. I'm going to start with Outcast because I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think the series has gotten to a very interesting place because in the beginning, it's really about, okay, Kyle has some kind of deal with demons and he can make them come out of people's bodies. And it seemed like it was a pretty straightforward comic in the beginning. Not so much anymore. Now you're starting to reveal a larger conspiracy. Would you talk about that a little bit and who this guy is that's kind of haunting you?
Starting to reveal a larger conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's certainly the story of Outcast. Over time, you will realize what it is, and you don't really realize what it is yet, which is exciting to me, but could possibly be frustrating to an audience. So I'm glad that people seem to be on board for the ride. But it'll probably be like issue 18 or 26 or something, where people actually go, oh wait, they're actually doing this. That's very strange. And this new guy, Sydney, that has kind of come into town, who seems little evil, a little demonic, might be a fairly shady character. Is a part of that. And I think that the world's going to start opening up a little bit, and then we'll start peeling the layers back on the mythology, and you'll get to see what it is that Kyle is finding out he's at the center of.
Do you ever worry that you're asking a lot of your audience to just hang with you? Yeah. And this is something that I think we can get into a topic, because people rush to judgment on individual issues of Walking Dead, and we're going to get to that in a little bit more with the whole talking zombies thing.
Sure.
What's he doing? He's got jumped the shark. I saw actually on another website somebody said the series has jumped the shark. Like, okay, first off, hasn't jumped the shark the shark
by
yet?
the way, it jumps the shark every month, depending on what part of the internet you're looking at.
That is true.
Which is a delight to me. I enjoy it.
But you just said with Outcast, like around issue 18, it all sort of becomes clear. That's asking an awful lot of your audience.
Well, I'm hoping that the issues on the way there are pretty cool. I mean, there's some huge stuff coming up in issue 5 and some huge stuff coming up in issue 6, which both those issues will be out relatively soon. So we're giving the audience a nugget like every issue or so, but you're not going to get a broader sense of what's going on until those later issues. But hopefully we're not boring people too much with the issues as they come. But it's all part of it. You'll see when it all works out. But yes, it is asking quite a bit to not even reveal exactly what the full story is for over a year.
Working on your own creator-owned books, you don't have to worry about edicts from a company saying, okay, you got to get to this stuff faster.
Right.
But is there ever a point at which you say to yourself, okay, I'm not moving quick enough on any of these series? Or how do you pace your own self with these stories?
Well, I mean, freedom is a double-edged sword, and I like to say, for better or for worse, I can do whatever I want. Matt Fraction's made this joke before too. It's like, I can totally screw my book up if I want to, which is great, but that danger is there. We'll see how people like the new issues of Invincible. It's getting weird.
Are you really?
Yeah. And it's just, once you do 100 some odd issues of something, like, you got to change things up to, keep it interesting. But every time I take these series into a new direction, I know I'm risking alienating the people that have been supporting us for so long. Right. So you have to, walk that fine line of, I need to draw more people to a book, I need to keep people engaged in the book, and I need to not drive people away, but I also need to keep people guessing. And at the end of the day, I just do stuff that I think is neat.
How much do you think that outcry on the internet that says, okay, he lost me, it happens with every once in a while, it'll happen with your books, any book out there. How much of that do you think that is real, and how much of that do you just think that is snap judgments of the moment, I'm being emotional about my reaction?
I think it's very real, but it is a snap judgment in the moment. I think that someone could go on a 400-page tirade about something but then try the next issue, and they don't come out with a 400-page tirade about how much they like that next issue.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But there have been, issue 110 of Invincible was a fairly controversial issue of that series.
Right.
And there was a lot of outrage and a lot of, oh, I'm dropping this book, and sales spiked up. Like,
That was
significantly.
that was the rape issue, right?
That was the rape issue. Yeah, it's definitely
Or
a
was
weird...
all that controversy, did that just drive people back
Right.
to the books? Like, okay,
Right.
maybe we've been missing out on something. Because Invincible hasn't had the success of Outcast or Walking Dead. So maybe that was a reminder. It's sad that that needs to be the reminder to get them back there.
Right.
But, you know, you handled that story
It's a
delicately,
startling,
yeah.
shocking, gut-wrenching moment, and it got people talking, and, you know, but it's a cloud of nonsense online, you know? You never know who's right and who's wrong and whose opinion reflects the masses and who doesn't. And, you know, we deal with this on the Walking Dead show. We deal with this on various, you know, the various comics that I do and at Image, you know, you see things online and you're like, wait, what's happening? Like, what's going on? But you never know what it's real. I mean, it's really... you know, you really have to learn to ignore it to a certain extent, which is, you know, unfortunate to say, but you never know what to think.
When I worked in radio, my program director used to say, because I used to work on a very controversial show on the station, and he used to say, you know, we get complaints, that's fine. It's when you get complaints from your core audience. The problem I have in the internet world is, how do you know where your core audience is? And then you over time, and I'm sure you have this too with your own letters page, you have trusted people who write you. It's like, okay, I want to hear what this guy has to say about the book.
That's true.
And I think if you start hearing from those people that you're off the rails, maybe that's the time to take a step back. But generally speaking, the chatter online is just chatter, and then suddenly you see stuff like, hey, I'm dropping Invincible, and the sales go up.
Well, I mean, it's funny too, because like we're at New York Comic Con, you know, and if I follow my Twitter feed, there's a bit of negativity, not as much negativity as there possibly should be, but 'cause my Twitter feed is actually pretty tame compared to some, but you know, online's very negative, but you come here to New York Comic Con and it's like people shaking your hand saying how much they love you all the time, you know, so you get away from that like faceless internet disconnect and you find that, you know, people are generally very nice, even in New York.
Yeah, it would be nice to get that attitude online every once in a while. We'll see what we can do about that. Let's talk about The Walking Dead.
Let's do that.
Love what's going on with The Walking Dead right now. You know I'm a huge fan of the comic. It's the book I tell everybody to read. I've actually recommended it twice on my radio show to people who've never read comics before. And what I love about the book lately is that there has been a relative calm. There's some upheaval within the community itself, not a lot, but I love the relative calm, and I love how that relative calm also creates pretty horrific stuff. Like when Carl and Rick go on the carriage ride to the hilltop, and they get ambushed, and Rick loses his crap.
Right.
I love that moment because it tells you that it's still bubbling underneath them. Yet they get to the hillside and they get to enjoy a lovely sunset.
It's true.
But you seem to be not letting them rest for too much longer. Like the horror of the world is coming back in a big way very soon, isn't it?
To a certain extent. And every now and then the book can appear cyclical, like, oh, there's another bad guy that they're going to have to deal with, or oh, they're going to have to lose their, you know, sanctuary again and be on the road again, or whatever, you know. And I'll just say it's definitely not that, you know. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be a new threat on the horizon. But I feel like over the life of the series, Rick and the core group have always been dealing with things in an evolving way. So even though they may have encountered the same kind of threats here and there, that was by design so that you could see how differently they handle, you know, these threats now that they've, you know, lived through more stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's certainly a big threat on the horizon, and things are going to get a little bit more dire than they have been the last few issues. Again, as often happens at The Walking Dead, but there are going to be a lot of major differences. You know, this new beginning, this new world. You know, it's not going away anytime soon. These are very different people now.
Yeah, and I love the reveal of the talking zombies, which everybody thought, oh God, Kirkman's lost it. He's evolving zombies in some weird way, and sure enough, it's actually much more horrific than that.
Sure.
Where did that idea come from? And when that hit you, was that something you just said, ooh, that's gross, I like that, let's put that in?
Yeah, I mean, I get excited about stuff like that. I mean, it's...
Because that's a particularly nasty one.
Yeah, I mean, it's been years at this point that I started, you know, building towards this. But, you know, it's really just an evolution of Michonne's character. You know, when Michonne was introduced, she had come up with that system of the armless, jawless zombies that acted as like a masking agent to allow her to travel freely in the world. And, you know, as we get deeper and deeper and deeper into this world, it becomes a question of how have people survived this long. Like we've seen Rick and his group and how they've survived for as long as they have, but when you see new people, they've survived in different ways and they've evolved in different ways. And so, as you look at the series where it is now, you've got, Rick leading this community and Maggie leading this community, and we haven't even checked in on some of the other communities that are in this area, but it's very much about pockets of civilization, and that's who these people are and how they've survived. And so now we're going to be finding people that may have survived in a way that doesn't really rely on civilization, maybe a little bit more of a savage existence that's kind of evolved through this world. And we're going to see those two, worldviews kind of clash. So pretty excited about the stuff to come.
And I love that Carl's no longer going to be with Rick, because that just seems to add another element of danger to the entire series. Because first off, Carl's a far more unpredictable character, and you take him away from Rick and his guidance.
Yeah.
There's got to be bad stuff well, I don't know if there's necessarily bad stuff, but you have big plans for Carl, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Carl, to a certain extent, is kind of the central focus of the book. I mean, Rick is going to be very much a part of the series, and he's still going to be around. But I do think that, possible that people haven't necessarily noticed that at this point, but there is somewhat of a shift, whereas before it was like, 70% Rick and 30% Carl. That's kind of, 60% Carl and 40% Rick at this point. We'll be hanging out with Carl a little bit more and seeing how he's living in this world and what he's doing moving forward.
Because Carl really has come into his own in the series, and he's growing into a young man. But how much of that was on purpose, and how much of that was a happy accident that you finally noticed, like, wait, this character is getting a lot more interesting to me?
I mean, it's all by design. It was always
okay.
Eventually, I wanted to stay with the book long enough for Carl to evolve into a character that can actually do interesting things. And it's exciting that we finally gotten to that point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have everything planned out from day one, but there are certainly, big movements in the direction of the story that I've had planned for a good long while.
All right. First off, congratulations on getting the TV show picked up again.
Oh,
I think everybody kind of expected that, but it's still
it's
have
nice.
a cigar or two
right.
when that happens.
Sure.
And then you've got this spin-off series, and that's a show that we know the least about, but little bits have been coming out about it right now.
Sure.
But what I love about it, and this is something that you said, was that this is the series where we get to explore stuff that I don't explore in the comics.
Right.
And yes, the main show veers off in another direction, but it's still got all those comic elements. How much of that new show is ideas that were percolating over here that you just couldn't really fit into your universe the way you wanted to, and how much of it is really the new showrunner and those guys doing their thing, and the writing staff of the AMC show?
Right. It's much more, I wrote the pilot with Dave Erickson, the showrunner, but the central like what we're doing with that show is really, it started with me going, I'm a different person now. What would I do in the Walking Dead space as I started Walking Dead as like a spunky, energetic, thinner, 24-year-old. Yeah, I was faster and better in every way. And now I'm old and tired. And
you got some kids now?
I have kids now. It's terrible. I'm kidding. I love my kids. But, I'm in a different place. And so I very much, from the outset was like, I'm going to compete with that like idiot in the past and see what I can do. And so there hasn't ever really been any like leftover ideas from The Walking Dead that I haven't used that I can put into this. But it is kind of an opportunity for me to start from scratch and see like, can I, working with Dave, construct a new world, a new pocket of this universe that is just as entertaining, but almost completely different. And I think we've pulled it off. Like we're really excited about what's coming up, and we're casting now, and we've got a date for when we're filming, and things are moving pretty quickly. And I'm hoping that around summer of next year we'll be able to start, really talking about it and showing people what we're doing and stuff.
You've often said, and you've reiterated a number of times, I think it bears asking the question one more time since this is happening and it's gearing up now. You've always said you would not do a spin-off book in the comics.
Yeah, I don't.
Still the same?
No, I don't have time for that. No, there are enough zombies in my life at this point. I think that television as a medium embraces spin-offs, and I don't think comics really do. I know you can argue that the X-Men is really the only real success story as far as spin-offs long term, but each one of those books is its own separate universe with its own separate storylines. It's not necessarily dependent on the same central theme, and I don't know. I just feel differently about it in comics.
So I think I've told you before that The Walking Dead itself makes me anxious, the TV show.
Okay.
I love the comic, but the TV show makes me anxious. I am not a horror fan. I think our set is completely falling apart. We should probably wrap this up soon.
It's moving.
It is totally moving. Don't touch it. What are you doing? This is put together with tape, clearly.
By the way, this is put together with tape.
Yeah, there it goes. So I'm going to finish up with this. I've started. I decided look, I'm missing out on something here. Set just totally fell apart.
Happened.
That was awesome.
First interview, baby.
High five. Right
We're
there.
doing high fives?
Yeah, we totally screwed all of that up,
That was
didn't we?
terrible.
I will finish with this. So I've started rewatching the show, and I was talking to my friend Neil about this. And Neil binge watched.
What made you think tape was a good idea?
Well, that's what we've always done. It just
Really?
didn't hold so well this time. Yeah, it looks. This is Hollywood right
So
here.
funny. It looks fine until
Yeah.
then when the tape started showing.
Come on, you've been on enough TV sets to know that they look like crap behind the scenes.
It's true.
It's the same thing, man. Yeah. Okay. All right. At any rate, so I started binge watching the show.
Okay.
That's actually the worst possible idea for me because you don't get that weekly dose where you can kind of decompress from it, talk about it with some friends or something like that. Binge watching that show is dangerous. And my friend Neil did the same thing, and he said his attitude at the office was horrible when he was binge watching it. He was treating his employees horribly. But now that he's on the weekly thing, he's like, okay, I'm much better. So just something to keep in mind.
I disagree. I think everyone should binge watch it however you want. I think as long as you're watching it, that's fine. The show does not in any way damage your mood or your psyche or any of that. It's a perfectly fantastic show that it's uplifting.
It's wholesome.
It's everything everyone wants out of a television show. Why are you doing this to me?
I'm just saying that no, it's a good argument for people to watch it on a weekly basis.
It's true. That's true.
Don't just binge watch it and wait for it.
You need your Chris Hardwick sandwich in the middle of each episode, going, boy, that was crazy, right? Oh man! And when that happened, oof! Aren't we upset? All right, now let's just get over that.
Get over it and move on.
So yeah, he really is. That Talking Dead segment really is.
He's the psychiatrist of the show.
Well, it's good to bring the things down afterwards, because we always end the show and you're like, ah, and then it's like, oh, I'll watch Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Sure.
Whoever.
Yeah. Well, now that you've broken this out, I think we should let you go.
That's great.
Yeah. No, don't touch that. What the hell is wrong with you?
By the way, you grabbed me for real. That was awesome. It wasn't like a joking.
No, that was I was slap the hell out of you. Robert, always good to see you, buddy.
Always good to be here.
Yeah, sure.
Even when the set's falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think I don't? You think I do this a lot because I hate it?
I think you do it because you're a glutton for punishment. Clearly.
Oh, I love it. It's great. I love CBR.
I'm Jonah Weil, and this is CBR TV.